The connection between emotional health and sobriety is huge. And if you've listened or seen any of my stuff, you know I'm really, really big on this. And in this video, I'm going to drill down more into what emotional sobriety is and how to get it. So let's start with why we use alcohol. If you found me and you're watching this video, this may be one of the reasons that you're drinking too much. It's the reason that I drank too much right from the beginning. My drinking never kind of started off normal and took off. Like I was literally lying in the gutter at 15 years old, passed out, covered in my own vomit from drinking too much. That's how I drank. The reason that I loved alcohol was it made me feel normal. It made me feel comfortable in my own skin. It made me feel the way I thought everybody else felt. What I did is I outsourced the management of my emotions to alcohol. I did not know how to deal with my emotions at all. Nobody talked to me about that. Nobody role models it to me. Nobody coached me. I grew up in circumstances where any emotions or feelings I had, good or bad, just made other people feel uncomfortable, and I had to shut them down and push them down. So I had all of these big emotions, like human beings do, because that's how we're made. And I had no idea how to manage them. I didn't know how to manage fear. I didn't know how to manage disappointment, frustration, anger, resentment, bitterness, jealousy, all of just like the difficult emotional experiences that, again, we're going to have as human being. Like I didn't know how to manage them. And those emotions felt overwhelming to me and very, very frightening. And I wanted to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Nobody wants to feel like that, right? Nobody wants to feel frustrated or angry or frightened or disappointed. Like we want to just get rid of that as quickly as possible. So at a very young age, because I started drinking at 14, by 15, my brain had made that connection that if you don't like how you feel, you can change it really quickly, really quickly. I remember being at college and I was maybe 23-ish. And I had been dating this guy for a couple of months and I could tell he was going to break up with me. And he did it on the phone and I put the phone down. And my next thought was, this is a 2 bottle of wine job. Because I'd been dumped, which immediately opened up my feelings of abandonment, low self-worth, not feeling good enough, horrible, horrible feelings that I was always running away from. And I could see them like coming towards me like a tsunami. Like I could see them coming. And they weren't quite here yet, but they were going to come and they were going to flood me. And I didn't know if I'd survive them. And they scared the bejesus out of me. So I got myself to the liquor store, the off license, as we call them in England, as quickly as I possibly could. Got 2 bottles of wine, kind of did a joke about like, oh, having friends over, right? Because you don't want the person that you're buying the alcohol from to think that you have a problem. By the way, we all do that. we think it was so original. And I just drank them. Done. Didn't have to feel anything. I remember dancing around my bedroom, actually, like singing along to something, feeling quite happy, even though I'd been dumped. I mean, of course, the next day I felt like absolute pants. But it's almost like the hangover, like managing the hangover was a distraction from feeling the feelings of being dumped by this guy. They just all sort of mushed together in this awful soup that you just have to wade through for several days. And then, your brain chemistry is affected. You don't have any, your serotonin and dopamine isn't working properly. So you just feel even more low. And then you need to have another drink. And so I used alcohol to manage how I felt because I did not have those skills. That's what it comes down to. I did not have those skills. Now, here's the thing. Lots of you may have grown up in situations similar to mine where you weren't parented in a way that helped you understand how you felt and dealt with it. It wasn't role modeled. Perhaps your parents didn't deal with their feelings very well, right? So that's one thing. But the other thing is, when you outsource the management of your emotions to alcohol, you miss out on tons of opportunities to learn and grow from them, because that's what they are, basically. They're learning and growth opportunities. Uncomfortable ones, sometimes difficult ones, often painful. Nevertheless, those life experiences are learning and growth opportunities. And if you just numb and push them away, I consistently missed opportunities to learn and grow as a human being. So I was stuck as an emotional teenager. Like I just didn't have those skills. I didn't grow up with them, and I didn't take the opportunities that life offered me to learn them. So I never learned them. So therefore I became more and more dependent on substances, primarily alcohol, to fix how I felt and to manage my feelings and emotions. Does this make sense? By the way, if you're interested in changing this, I have a program. It's in the comment section below where I teach how to do this. Please check that out. So this is why stopping drinking is 10% not drinking alcohol, 90% emotional sobriety. The 10% part, the not drinking alcohol, is really important, but it's also the easiest part because you've done it. I know if you've watched this, you've done it. You've done a day, a week, a month, a dry January, or whatever, right? You've done it. I know you have. You have stopped drinking for a period of time. Everyone can stop drinking. It's staying stopped that is the challenge. And to stay stopped, you have to be emotionally sober. And a lot of it's being able to grow, right? Your emotional growth and development is really stunted when you abuse and rely on alcohol. It's just really, really stunted because alcohol, so it's about bandwidth, right? When you have a problem with alcohol, you do four things. You drink, you think about drinking, think about not drinking, you recover from drinking. Those things affect how much bandwidth you have to function in your day. Bandwidth is space to think thoughts and energy. That's all it is. So I was operating on maybe 50 to 60% bandwidth, maybe. So at least, I want to say probably 50% of my bandwidth was just obsessed with, was like dealing with a hangover, thinking about drinking, thinking about not drinking, worrying about my drinking. When am I going to get drinking? How am I going to drink? Does anyone know I have a problem? Blah, 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 right? So you just don't have the bandwidth to grow. You have enough bandwidth. Like I was in university, I had a job. I'd never been fired from a job. Like I paid my rent. Like I could function, but I couldn't grow. And that is one of the gifts of sobriety, by the way, is that when you stop drinking, you get all of your bandwidth back. And that's when you can grow. And growth, like if you are human, I'm going to just assume that you are, growth is the point. You are here to grow. And that growth and the opportunity to grow never stops. That continues until the day you die. If you look around, there's a universal law and you'll see that it's true. We're either growing or we're dying. And I was dying on the inside. I looked like a functioning, like, again, I showed up for work, pay my rent. I looked like a human being who was functioning. I wasn't. I was dying on the inside. And I wonder if you have felt like that. And if you have, I really want you to know, because I was there. I lived in that place for a very long time. It was very painful. If that's where you are, I just want to tell you that's a really good place to be because it's very, very motivating. I was that pain, how awful that was, motivated me. It motivated me to change, and I hope it motivates you. And I want you to know there is a way out. Lots of things you can do, lots of resources out there. I've got tons of videos, I've got books, I've got a podcast, and I'm going to suggest diving into one of my digital programs that will really help explain this and give you some tools. Link below. There is so much more to this than just putting down alcohol. When we stopped drinking, so I was 27, I was young. It doesn't matter what age you are, you're an emotional teenager. It's like when you stop drinking, it's like you're walking around raw because you've missed out on years of emotional and personal development that your peer group has had, right? Maybe your peers, like they had some nasty breakups in university and some dark nights of the soul, and they journaled about it, and maybe they talked to some friends and they did some things and they kind of came out the other side with some really amazing realizations about themselves and how they are in relationships and what they really want in life, right? So my peers were growing. I wasn't. I was just stuck in the same holding pattern, repeating the same mistakes over and over because I didn't know any other way to navigate life and how I felt without alcohol as my crutch. And that is why you must do the work of emotional sobriety. You must do it, because otherwise your brain will always look for something outside of you to fix how you feel. Food, sugar, screens, men, attention from men was a big one for me. Shopping, right? All of these dopamine, like all these things that hit the dopamine, right? They change how we feel in for those few minutes, for a couple of hours, right? So our brains will always look for the quickest, shortest dopamine hit outside of us. But all we're doing is replacing one drug with another. This is an inside job. It is internal work. And you can get to it whenever you want to get to it. But I'm going to tell you, it's not going away. This is, you right now have a learning and growth opportunity. Are you going to take it, or are you going to kick the can down the road again? Because once you, I'm not, I'm of average intelligence, I think maybe a bit above, but I'm not a brain scientist. The tools and techniques of emotional sobriety, they're not hard to understand or apply. What's important is the consistency of them, is consistently applying this stuff, because it will change your life. So I hope that this has made sense in understanding the link between emotional health and the management of your emotions, and why that's so important, because how you feel is everything. How you feel is everything, right? Who wants to walk around in this world feeling all the time, right? And we're going to feel the whole spectrum of emotions. That's how being human is. But we want to try and just at least be in a balanced place and open to the joy and the beauty and the connection and the wonderful stuff, and be able to navigate the difficult stuff in a way that, like, okay, I don't want to go through this difficult thing, but I sure as hell want to come out the other side of it with some growth and some lessons. That's what I want. Hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below. Check out the program if you want to get started on emotional sobriety.